Joining us now in studio to talk more about the O.J. Simpson case, Peter Culp. He's a founder of Culp Law, former Assistant Attorney General of New York State, and former Brooklyn prosecutor. First of all, your reaction to the parole board granting him a release in the next few months?
I think based on the facts and his actions in jail, it makes sense. It's consistent with what was going on. It is a little surprising he didn't apologize. Typically, parole board's looking for an apology in these cases, and he didn't apologize. He talked about he wished the victims in the case didn't have a gun pointed at him, but he didn't come out and apologize. But it's important to note that for the parole board okayed this, the victims in the case wrote a letter on his behalf, which is somewhat unusual in these cases.
Now, in his hearing, you heard it there in Steve's package. He said, "I have basically lived a conflict-free life." The board didn't press him on that. What do you make of it?
I think conflict is interesting because I'm sure if you ask the Goldman family, they would take great umbrage with that. But it's just to focus, regardless of what we think of his past case, it's focused on, he did do 9 years. He had no discipline within the jail, so they focus on the facts, the discipline, whether he's a threat at 70 years old back out in the community, and I guess the parole board decided he wasn't.
So in other words, the parole board, as much as they may detest what he allegedly did to Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, as much as they feel that justice was not served, they couldn't take any of that into consideration here.
That's correct. You have to look at the facts of this particular case. You have to look at how he was in jail in this particular case. They can't go back and dial back and do sort of a makeup call. We all know that this may have been, to some effect, the 9 years may have been a makeup call in this case, but they're not. The parole board's not supposed to look at.
Do you think the original robbery, getting 9 years for what he was accused of, was a little bit wishy-washy?
Yeah, I think if you were in the 5 boroughs, that might have been a lesser, it might even been a misdemeanor, depending. He didn't have the gun, he didn't point the guns, but you never know.
What happens if he violates his parole now?
I think they'll really crack down. I mean, I noticed the commissioner made a comment, something along the lines of even the simplest parole violation, you could be in trouble.
What would that be? What would be the simplest parole violation?
If you don't check in they set all these guidelines, at least in New York. I don't know about Vegas, but they set all these guidelines. If you don't check in at 5 o'clock, who knows? If he checks in at 6 o'clock, they could violate him.
As much as a lot of people hate the fact that our culture is so obsessed with celebrity, as a lawyer, do you at least perhaps feel some benefit that because of O.J. Simpson, a lot of people watched a trial 20-some years ago they might not have watched. A lot of people now know something about parole hearings simply because of the attention from O.J. Simpson.
I think I'm a testimony to that. I was going into law school at the time and probably watched a little too much, got wrapped up like we all did. I went into law school and then became a prosecutor. And frankly, I was a prosecutor with people who sort of told both sides of this story. In law school, I presented a summation about the OJ case, and I was very strong about how I felt it. And then when I became a prosecutor and spoke to more people, this case symbolized a lot of things for a lot of people, and we all came from different backgrounds. And it means different things to different people. So I sort of see now a little more than I did maybe when I was going into law school.
Now, I was in high school living in South Africa at the time, and even in South Africa, this case got a lot of coverage. Why do you think there's such a public fascination?
I think it has everything. It has everything that a double homicide case would want. We have the star. He was a movie star to some people. It wasn't a big movie star, but it had sort of all the drama. There was aspects of, there might be a drug cartel. There might be, was she with the waiter? What about the kids? There was everything.
Even the low-speed chase after the bodies were found and people were wondering where's OJ, then suddenly a helicopter gets the picture, and it says a lot about the media in the 1990s, and there's a low-speed chase there, and a lot of cable, well, the one cable channel, CNN at the time, took it wall to wall. The locals covered it, the networks covered it, and you thought, watching this, O.J. Simpson is either going to commit suicide or he's going to be convicted. This is evidence of his guilt.
Right.
And yet, he goes to trial within 2 years, and it didn't matter.
And he had his passport with him, a mustache, money. He had everything. I mean, it's amazing. You think of times in our lives that we think of where was I when X, Y, and Z happened, and it was the chase or it was the verdict. And whether we were at a restaurant and saw different people and different reactions, everybody has a different take, but knows where they were during the.
Peter Culp. Peter, thanks so much for coming in and talking about
Thanks
this. We
for
appreciate
having
it. Good to have you here.